Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Pollard and I'm running for Saanich Council. There's an old expression, politicians are like diapers, they need to be regularly changed. And I'm hoping on October the 15th this year, I will be part of that change. I was born in a small town. I lived my life in a small town. And all my friends were very small town, where there was little opportunity in the town of Winfield. But I outgrew Winfield and I decided to move to beautiful Saanich to go to school at the University of Victoria. I was born on a 40-acre orchard where I worked as early as 10, helping my siblings to work in the orchard, helping my dad. But I never ended up being an intergenerational farmer. Instead, I turned out to be an intergenerational gardener, something which I love to this day and pass on my extra garden to friends, family, and people that need it. I had a great role model for a father, and that was my dad. He served the community on the school board, on the water board, and then later my sister, my older sister Penny, took on challenging roles and became the first president of the Canadian Horticultural Society, served 3 terms on the Agricultural Land Commission, and is now finishing up her 16th year as a councillor in Lake Country. What inspirational role models I have had over the years. When I moved to the coast, I completed a BA in political science at the University of Victoria. And I'm almost 3/4 of the way along to a business degree. So I have that unique combination of an understanding of the political process and also business as well as the farming community. 3 important parts of our Saanich. I worked with the Debate and Speech Society at UVic. I was in Model Parliament for 7 years. I served on the UVic Alma Mater Society as a director. Later, I served a term as vice president of the UVic Alumni Association. And then I graduated in 1983, going out into the world. But life took a strange turn. It took another direction. And I went unemployed for over 1.5 years before finally finding a full-time job working with BCFerries. The economy was not great in the mid-'80s. In fact, it was terrible. I put out hundreds of applications in order to get a position before landing up at BCFerries. On call for 4.5 years, it was challenging living by a pager and waiting for that call on the phone inevitably to get a chance to work. But then after 4.5 years, I landed up being there as a permanent cashier. And I spent 32 years at BCFerries serving the public, hearing their concerns, hearing their gripes, and finishing off a great career in 2018. But in the interim, I also did other things while I was working there. And I did such things as being a census worker, where you had to go out in public, you had to ask people questions that they did not like to answer. I worked as a Save-On food laborer, which I am doing currently as a part-time job. I did a landscape company, and also I was a freelance researcher and a writer. I did copious amounts of volunteer work over the years, starting with such groups as creating the Vancouver Island Communicators and the Vancouver Island Networking Club, and then began a long 17-year association with First Canadian Toastmasters, the very first Canadian Toastmasters Club in Canada, winning numerous awards along the way for public speaking. But the one thing about Toastmasters that I learned the most, and it's not, when you speak, you're there to help yourself, but when you evaluate, when you listen, you're helping others. And that's at my core of my mantra, is I help other people succeed. The years passed quickly. I ran for the Liberal Party in 1990, losing out to Sheila Orr, who was elected. But I continued to build my involvement in the community. At one point, I was involved at least 3 separate community boards in the Greater Victoria region. And it eventually took me away from Toastmasters. It took me on to 6 wonderful years working with such wonderful mentors as Vicki Sanders and Dean Murdoch on the Quadra Cedar Hill Community Association, and where I served on the board for Cook Linwood. I did such things as holding the speed reader board, fighting graffiti in our neighborhood, and also I had the opportunity, after 15 years, working with residents in my street to get a sidewalk in our Safe to School zone. And that's one of my proudest accomplishments that I feel I did on the Quadra Cedar Community Association. Working at the municipal level was another challenge. I was fortunate enough to be appointed to several special events committees on the Mayor's Committee by Mayor Leonard, working on such things as the anniversary book during the centenary anniversary of Saanich, working on delivering the strawberries to the Strawberry Fest, and that was an exciting experience as well. And I was so very glad to see the Strawberry Fest back this year. So Art, what have you done in the last 4 years since the last election? How have you built community? The number one way I built community, and in spite of the pandemic and the limited entry in Municipal Hall, is that I've followed every single council meeting for the last 4 years. I've watched the ups and downs, I've watched the successes, and I've also watched how we can be better in Saanich. I spoke out on the Baptist Housing Society, who are building a place on my block, and I spoke out on the various other issues that affected people in Saanich. I will admit, after the first 2 years of the pandemic, we all led a very safe and isolated life. And at times it became very depressing, not seeing friends, not seeing family for long stretches of time. It was challenging. So what did I do? I read a lot, I learned a lot, I grew a great garden, and I regretted being separated from friends, long-term friends. But I was a fighter. I decided, no, I'm not going to let this depression get me down, not let me hurt me, and went out and did other things. I started freelance writing again. I played some golf, I fished. And after that, and after much cajoling, I decided it was time to go back to work. And what I did was I took on a part-time job at Save On Foods, a retail job. Retail is experiencing many challenges out there. They're experiencing changing demographics, as are most professions. And I felt, what better way than to go back to work to help one part of our society that needs help. And you can see it every day. You can see it in 4-hour ferry waits. You can see it in 6-hour waits at emergency. We have a troubled society. And my feeling is we can do much, much better. So why run again? Making Saanich better. You're going to hear it from 20 candidates. And you're going to hear some wonderful promises and solutions. But are they realistic? And that's the thing that I would like to believe in. There needs to be less acrimony on council. We have had individuals who have got into very serious fights at council meetings, and we need much more harmony and collaboration. That is the key to getting agreement on council. There's nothing wrong with respectful disagreements, but sometimes watching the Granicus on Saanich or in person has been, frankly, embarrassing. Council needs more to stay within their jurisdiction. They need to stick with the nuts and bolts of governance and get back to more of duties that are theirs and theirs alone, and leave the provincial government and the federal government to do their duties. We need our bylaws either educated, enforced, or thrown out. The Boulevard bylaw is just one example of routine violations causing traffic safety hazards in our city and all over and even in our rural areas. We need a greater understanding of what governance is actually about and what fiscal responsibility entails. The taxpayers need much greater protection, and as inflation grows and the world situation gets more dire, it is not the time for the nice tos, but it is the time for the need tos. 17 of our parks are in serious danger due to invasive species. These parks are dying. Here I sit in a wonderful park that does not have that problem, here in beautiful Rutledge. But other parks are in serious trouble, and if this spreads to our other parks, we are in serious ecological danger. We have excellent volunteers that do wonderful jobs, but it is right to completely rely on them. What would I bring to the council table? An understanding of land use and development and the development process. And that is the number one thing for a councillor, is to understand how land use works and how it will be in the future. Integrity in life, business, and volunteerism. I bring that to the table. Accountability. If I make a mistake, I will admit it. Respect. I will work with any other councillor, even when I vigorously disagree with them. I will respect everyone. And finally, most important thing of all, which I feel has been lacking more so in Victoria than in Saanich, leadership and collaboration. Your council must lead to the future. They must work together. They must work as a team. They must not work as disparate individuals. And it is always important there's cooperation between different walks of life and opinions. Those 4 principles are my mantra. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today on this beautiful day at Rutledge Park in Saanich. Your support is appreciated. I'll see you at the polls October 15th. Vote smart and vote art. Thank you.